Level 1. Nothing. You find out at the reading. A lawyer's office. Fluorescent light. A table that's been there since 1987. You sit in a chair that doesn't fit the room, and you wait for your name to mean something. It doesn't. The estate is $4,200 and a 2003 Ford Escape with a cracked windshield. Split 4 ways. Your share is $1,050 and a quarter ownership of a car none of you want. The lawyer explains this in the same tone he uses for everything. Neutral. Practiced. The tone of a man who has watched this happen 1,000 times and stopped feeling it somewhere around 2009. You drive home in your own car. You sit in the driveway. You thought there would be something. Not money necessarily. Something. A letter. A decision they made about you before they left. Some evidence that the life they lived had accumulated into a thing they could pass forward. There is nothing to pass. The life was spent living it. Every dollar earned went to rent, to groceries, to the car payment, to keeping the lights on. There was nothing left over because there was never enough to have left over. You don't blame them. That's the part nobody talks about. You don't blame them. You just sit in the driveway understanding for the first time that the starting line you're standing on is the same one they stood on. And their parents before them. And theirs. Nothing wasn't left to you. Nothing was the inheritance. The cycle is the estate. Level 2. The stuff. No money. But there's furniture. A dining room table. A china cabinet. Boxes of photographs in a closet nobody opened for 12 years. A wedding ring that doesn't fit. Tools in a garage that still smell like him. Dishes she got as a gift in 1974 that nobody ever used because they were for company and company never came. You take the table. Your sister takes the cabinet. Your brother doesn't want anything, and then calls 3 weeks later about the tools. The stuff creates a fight that money would have prevented. Because stuff has no clean way to divide. Money splits evenly. A table doesn't. A photograph doesn't. The ring nobody can wear but nobody can sell either. You drive the table to your apartment in a rented truck. You put it in the dining room. You eat dinner at it that night and feel something you cannot name. Not grief exactly. Something older. The weight of objects that outlived the people who chose them. The inheritance is 40 pounds of wood, and the argument it started. Level 3. The house. Paid off. 22 years of payments. The last check written in 2019 and framed on the wall of the kitchen like a diploma. It comes to you and your brother equally, which means neither of you owns it, which means you have to decide together what to do with something neither of you can afford to keep alone and neither of you can agree to sell. Your brother wants to rent it. You want to sell. The market is either perfect right now or about to collapse depending on which article you read last. You argue about the article. You argue about the realtor. You argue about whether to repaint before listing and how much the carpet situation is going to cost. 6 months pass. The house sits empty. The property taxes come due. You split them. The furnace needs replacing. You split that too. The house is costing you money now. The inheritance is a monthly expense. You sell it eventually. $287,000. Split 2 ways after fees and taxes and the furnace and the realtor and the 3 months of carrying costs. You walk away with $118,000 and a brother you haven't spoken to normally since March. The money hits your account on a Thursday. You stare at it. It's the largest number you've ever seen in that account. It's also the reason you didn't talk to your brother on his birthday. Level 4. The life insurance. $150,000. One beneficiary. You. Not because you were the favorite. Because you were the one who was there. The one who drove to the appointments, managed the medications, made the calls nobody else wanted to make. The policy was updated 18 months before the end, and nobody else knew until the reading. Your sister finds out in the same fluorescent room. Her face does something you've never seen it do. Not anger immediately. Something before anger. A recalculation. She is looking at you and updating an equation she thought she already knew the answer to. The relationship changes in that room. Not loudly. Quietly. The way a door closes slowly on a spring until it latches without sounding like it closed. You deposit the $150,000. You don't tell anyone what you do with it. You pay off your car. You pay off the card. You put the rest somewhere and let it sit. The guilt lasts about a year. The money lasts longer. You earned it. Not because they wrote your name down. Because you showed up when showing up costs something. Level 5. The portfolio. $400,000 in a brokerage account. Mutual funds. some individual stocks. Positions held for decades, some of them, bought at prices that seem impossible now. You didn't know the account existed until the attorney listed the assets. You knew they saved. You didn't know they saved like this. In silence. In patience. Without telling anyone, because telling anyone changes things. You inherit the account, and you also inherit the question of what to do with it. And you don't know. You've never managed $400,000. You've managed paychecks. Those are different skills, and nobody taught you the second one. A financial advisor calls within 2 weeks. You don't know how he got your number. He wants to meet about your options. He uses the word stewardship. He has a leather portfolio and a firm handshake and a rate of 1.2% annually, which sounds small until you do the math. You meet with 3 advisors. They all say different things with the same confidence. You pick the one who talked least and listened most. You are not sure if that was the right call. You want to know for 10 years. The portfolio wasn't just money. It was 40 years of a decision made quietly and kept. You are now the keeper of a decision you didn't make. That weight is different from the money. Level 6. The business. A small one. 11 employees. 23 years in operation. A name on a sign that means something in the town where you grew up but translates to nothing anywhere else. You inherit 60%, and your cousin inherits 40%, and neither of you has ever run a business. Your cousin wants to sell. You want to understand it first. The employees are watching. They've been watching since the funeral. They need to know if they have jobs, and you don't have an answer yet, and every week that passes without an answer is its own kind of answer. You learn things in 6 months that took your father 23 years to build. You learn which clients actually pay and which ones promise. You learn which employee holds everything together quietly without a title that reflects it. You learn that the business was worth more when he was alive because he was the business and you are not him, and the gap between what you inherited and what you can sustain is measured in reputation you cannot manufacture. You sell it in month 8. Less than you wanted. More than your cousin expected. The employees mostly land somewhere. One of them doesn't and sends you an email you still haven't answered. The inheritance was a responsibility you couldn't fully meet. That's different from failing. You just didn't know the difference yet when it mattered. Level 7. The trust. You don't receive it at the reading. You receive a document explaining when you will receive it. At 30. At 35. At 40. Structured distributions. Conditions. A trustee who is not you making decisions about money that is technically yours. The control was intentional. Someone decided before you were old enough to decide anything that you would need to be protected from the amount. You are 28 when they die. You wait 2 years for the first distribution. $200,000 released like a breath held for a decade. The trustee sends a letter. The letter is formal. The letter does not say congratulations. It says distributed per the terms of the instrument. The money changes your decisions before it arrives. You make choices at 28 based on what you know is coming at 30. The trust funds your patience. You take a job you care about instead of the one that pays more. You don't panic when the lease ends. You wait. The second distribution arrives at 35. The third at 40. By then the waiting doesn't feel like waiting anymore. It feels like the pace was correct. Someone who understood money better than you do at 28 decided how 28-year-old you should receive it. You disagree with that decision less every year. Level 8. Generational architecture. For $1 million. An estate attorney. A structure you need explained 3 times before you understand it, and you still don't fully understand it. Trusts inside trusts. A family LLC. Real estate holdings in 2 states. Life insurance policies on lives that are still living. Tax strategies that were built over 20 years to minimize what the government receives and maximize what moves forward. You didn't inherit money. You inherited a system. A system someone spent years and significant legal fees constructing specifically so that what they built would survive them. You meet with the estate attorney who built it. She is 61. She has done this for 30 years. She explains what each piece does. She explains what breaks it. She explains what you need to do to maintain it and what happens if you don't. You leave that meeting understanding one thing clearly. The inheritance isn't the $4 million. The inheritance is the architecture. The money is just what runs through it. Someone loved their family enough to build something that would hold. Your job now is not to spend it. Your job is to learn the structure well enough to extend it. Level 9. The name. No document lists this. No attorney reads it into the record. No account holds it, but it is the largest inheritance of all. A family name that opens rooms. A network built across 40 years of showing up, of doing business with integrity, of returning calls and keeping promises in a world that increasingly does neither. Relationships that transfer. Introductions that don't need explaining. The door that opens before you knock because they knew your father, and your father was the kind of man who made people want to know his children. You walk into a room at 32, and someone who has never met you knows your name. Not because of fame, because of character that accumulated over a lifetime and attached itself to the name before you were old enough to carry it. You did nothing to earn this. That is both the gift and the weight of it. Somewhere tonight, someone is sitting in a fluorescent office waiting to hear their name mean something. It won't. Not because they did anything wrong. Because wealth doesn't start at death. It starts decades before. In the decision to spend less than you earn. In the patience to let it grow. In the structure built quietly while everyone else was living louder. The reading is just the result of everything that happened before it. What you leave behind was decided long before anyone knew you were leaving.